On the show, in Wheel Spin, we drive the new Ford Figo. On the launch pad, Mercedes launches the Maybach. Quicker presents the quicker car guide. On the road with Fiat, we drive the Aventura to Morni Hills. Figo was the first car which literally put Ford India onto the Indian roads, both in terms of the sales numbers as well as the visibility. And why not? After all, it was a hatchback, and India, as we all know, is a hatchback country. But that was 5 years ago, and the Figo was getting a little long in the tooth. So it was time for change, and that's exactly what Ford did. They brought out the new Ford Figo. Let's have a look as to what really is new in this. The Figo was a small compact which gave Ford a reasonable identity in the Indian market. But the car was more utilitarian in nature than a showstopper, and the people who bought the Figo did it more for the reasons of the mind than the heart. But now the new Figo looks a bit more promising. If you were to ask the question, what's really new in this Ford Figo, then the answer would be short and simple: pretty much everything. She sits on a brand new platform, has new interiors, and the styling is all fresh. In this sense, she is truly the next generation Figo, and everything that's essential for a car has changed in this. Now, coming down to the looks, whether you like it or not, I'll leave it to you, but she certainly is an improvement over the old Figo. The old Figo might have had plenty of strengths, but being a great looking car certainly wasn't one of them. And this car too, although it's improved, it looks better, but still she really isn't the kind of a car which will make me run to the showroom with a wallet in my hand to buy it because of the way she looks. She still remains a bit understated and subdued, and this corporate grille here already looks a bit too familiar. The new Figo is built on Ford's new global platform and has been designed grounds up, keeping specially the requirements of the consumers for a market like India. And the company claims that safety has been an important parameter while designing and building the car. And the passenger compartment is built using high-strength steel to protect occupants in the unfortunate event of a collision. The new Figo will be built in Ford's new plant in Sanand, Gujarat. This new Figo will be sold with a 1.2-litre petrol engine as well as a 1.5-litre diesel engine, and also a 1.5-litre petrol which will be mated to an automatic transmission. What I drive here today is the 1.5-litre common rail diesel, and this churns out 100 brake horsepower as peak power and 215 Newton meters of torque. And the best part about this engine is the fuel economy. It gives you over 25 kilometers to a litre. Once you hear the word 25 kilometers to a litre, you start fearing that the engine has been sort of compromised to give out more fuel efficiency at the cost of power. But once you start driving it, all your fears disappear. And this is one engine you will love to drive if you are a keen driver. This is really well behaved, it's very smooth, the power delivery is very linear, there is no hint of a turbo lag, and I really like the way she pumps out one horse after another. It's a small car, it's a hatchback, so obviously you do not expect performance out of it, but the way the engine goes about doing its business is really impressive. It is indeed one of the best diesels I've driven in a long time. And if you were to talk about the three letters NVH, noise, vibration and harshness, I can tell you there won't be much to talk about because this is a quiet car, there's hardly any vibration, and it is really well behaved. It's a pleasure to drive this car. In fact, I'm quite taken aback. I really like the feel of this electric power steering here. It's very nicely weighted here, and even while you are cruising on the highway or cornering hard, it does manage to give you enough feedback. In fact, it adds to the pleasure of driving this car here. The engine here is mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox You don't get a choice of automatic with the diesel, unfortunately, but the gearbox here will delight you with the short, precise throws, and it slots in quite nicely. The gear here is tall enough and you don't really have to work that gearbox too much even in city traffic. In terms of handling, again, it's very Ford-like, stays planted and very confidently takes the corners. In fact, you'd love to throw this car around fast corners and it will take you by surprise, because at the end of the day, this is a small hatch which is not meant for performance or even driving very hard. But the kind of performance the engine gives you, you like to do both. Another area where the Figo scores very well is in terms of the ground clearance. It clears 174 millimeters, which is quite a bit for a family hatch like this. I think if you look at the combination of the engine performance, the steering, the suspension, this Figo comes across as a car which is basically a driver's car, in spite of the fact that it's a small hatch. But if you like to drive, I think you will like driving this Figo, because I feel that everything has been put together in this car for a person who loves to drive. And that again is a very Ford-like thing. The game changer here is, I think, the interiors. Not only everything has changed in terms of the looks and the layout, but also I feel the quality of the materials have gone up drastically. The seat fabric feels good, the fascia looks rock solid, and of course what you get are plenty of features which were absent in the old Figo. There is a huge addition. Some of the features of course have been borrowed from the elder sibling, the Figo Aspire, which was recently launched, like the Ford My Dog. But one of the features that I really love is this, the key. With the help of this key, you can actually program the car and you can control both the volume of the stereo as well as the top speed. And this I really like, and you will also like if you have an errand driver at home or teenage kids. Will certainly help keeping them out of trouble. My Ford Dock is also a feature which is available only from the middle trim trend onwards, which offers a solution for storing, mounting and charging mobile phones, MP3 players and sat-nav systems, and integrates them all into the car's infotainment system for ease of use. And consumers looking for even more connectivity can choose the Ford App Link, which will connect them with restaurants and other places in the nearby area, and even give you the cricket scores as it is connected to certain cricket sites. Like me, when you start driving the Figo, what you will really appreciate is the clever designing of the interior and the space it really offers. There are plenty of cubby holes here to keep your knickknacks in, bottle holders here, 12-volt socket, USB port, everything that will really come in handy on a long drive. Plus you have multifunction buttons on the steering wheel. What really though surprises me is the fact that I drive one of the top trims, the titanium, but the steering wheel is still not leather wrapped, and the fascia too here is single tone black. What I had expected is of course a dual tone, especially on the top trims. I think that would have livened up things quite a bit. But what immensely pleases me in this new Figo is the attention paid to safety. The top trim gets 6 airbags. To take the theme of safety further, Ford also offers airbags for the driver's side, even in the base trim, and another first-in-class feature, emergency assistance, which in case of a collision will provide information about your vehicle location automatically using the sync function and a Bluetooth paired phone to call emergency transponders. If you get into the back seat of this new Figo, I don't think you will have anything to complain about in terms of the space. There's plenty of knee room here, lots of headroom. In fact, it's fairly generous and makes you feel that you're in the back of a sedan rather than a hatchback. But if you try to put more than 2.5 people here, then things are going to get very tight, and it again reminds you then that this is a hatchback. But of course, what you don't get here is an armrest, which I feel would have made life a lot more comfortable in the long run, and you also don't get rear AC vents. However, what you get here is a bottle holder and also pockets on the back of the front seats to keep your stuff in, and a little cubby hole here again for storage. Ford has paid a lot of attention to making this car practical, and it really shows up in the amount of storage space you have even in the rear. The boot capacity is 257 litres and the rear seats fold down completely to increase it to over 600 litres. After having spent some time with the new Figo here, I will still say that she is not a car I will buy because of the way she looks. However, I have more compelling reasons to buy this Figo. Number one, drivability. The 1.5-litre diesel here is easily one of the best diesels I've driven in a long time. The power delivery is linear and it's really fun to drive, plus it's fuel efficient. And in terms of space, you have no reasons to complain. The feature list is impressive and Ford has priced the car very competitively. All these are very good reasons to buy the Figo, only if she were a little more exciting to look at. The Figo will be available in 6 trims and 3 engine options, and starting price is rather attractive at Rs 4.29 lakhs for the base petrol, while the base diesel starts at Rs 5.29 lakh, and the automatic with a bigger 1.5-litre petrol engine is priced at Rs 6.91 lakh. Mercedes-Benz India recently launched a car which has been known the world over for its premiumness, the Maybach, a super luxury saloon which is part of the Mercedes brand portfolio. The Maybach badge has been absent from the Indian market for the last 3 years, but now it is relaunched as Mercedes-Maybach, and it's a new model as well. The Mercedes-Maybach is a car which spells luxury in capitals. Long and elegant, it boasts of interiors which come with the very best in terms of both the material as well as the design. And if you're really looking at a long feature list, then this is the car for you. However, Mercedes will launch 2 variants of the Maybach. The S600, which is the top of the line and comes as a completely built-up unit with a hopping price tag of Rs 2.6 crores. The other variant is the S500, which will be locally assembled here in India at the Mercedes plant in Chakan, and this will be priced at a relatively modest Rs 1.67 crore, but will come with a smaller engine as well as minus some features. But what it will still offer is the Maybach name and luxury. I left Delhi early in the morning and I'm on my way to a place which lies just outside the city, beautiful Chandigarh, a place surrounded by lush green hills, a place with water bodies, in fact a place which seems like a perfect recipe for a lovely weekend, a place they call the Morni Hills. And to take me there, I have this with me, the Fiat Aventura, which again looks like a perfect car to drive on the highway. But then whenever I leave a place early in the morning, I start getting a bit hungry. I have driven about an hour and a half out of Delhi and I think I found a perfect place to make my first stop and grab some breakfast, a place which is famous for its mouth-watering parathas. Murthal. Time for me to get a mouthful of parathas. Murthal, which used to be an obscure little town on the outskirts of Delhi, is now famous as the paratha capital, and it's easy to spot people from all walks of life making a quick stopover for their fill of parathas. This white stuff, this butter here is something which makes you feel that this will add to the bulge here. But actually I'm told this is homemade butter. It tastes quite good and it is completely fat-free. Anyway, time to dig into the parathas. As was promised, this is quite good stuff, crispy and soft, and with the butter, it of course tastes much better. After tucking in butter dripping, okay, homemade butter dripping, but delicious parathas, I was more than ready for my little over 300-kilometer drive to the Morni Hills. The drive along the Chandigarh road known as the NH2 is one that requires you to keep a vigilant eye on the road, as these days it's a busy highway, but the smooth tarmac ensures that progress is steady. The Fiat Aventura here is powered by the trusted and reliable 1.3-litre multi-jet engine from Fiat, which does duty on many of Fiat's other cars as well. And I think this is one engine which gives you the right mix of fuel efficiency as well as power. In terms of power output, it churns out 93 brake horsepower and plenty of torque, which makes highway driving a real breeze. The Aventura is also a car which does manage to balance out the ride comfort as well as the handling. This is one car which stays planted on the highways, it handles very confidently, and inside the cabin the noise is filtered out and things are quite nice. In fact, you enjoy driving this car on the highway very much. In addition to all this, the diesel engine here is also quite frugal, which means you save a lot of money on a long drive like this, and that's something I quite like. After almost 5 hours and a quick detour through Panchkula, we were nearing our destination and the landscape too changed drastically. Green foliage all around and the temperature too dropped by a few degrees. I was ready to take in the fresh air and my first sight of the much talked about lakes of the Morni Hills. When you finally make it to Morni Hills, you are greeted by exactly what you would expect to find in a small hill station. Rolling hills, lush green mountainside, and even the pine trees here start making their appearance in abundance. And what really hits you is the quiet and peace of the place. No blaring of horns, no screeching of tires, no loud human voices. In fact, it looks like I'm all set for a weekend of real solitude. The lush green mountains immediately cast their spell on you and you feel relaxed and ready to explore more. And our next stop was Tikka Lake, which was another 18 kilometers away from the main markets of the Morni Hills. But the drive is a pleasant one on a winding road with plenty of pine trees to keep you company, and we soon spot the lakes. This is the point from where I get my first view of the Tikka Lake. In fact, it's a twin lake separated by a mountain in the middle. And as I look down from here, I can tell you it's a scene out of a picture postcard. A small village there surrounded by green fields, a body of water, and of course, all this surrounded by green mountains all around. It looks really inviting down there. It's time for me to go down there and see what it looks like from up close. Local myth has it that even though the two lakes seemingly are separated by a hillock, the water level in the two lakes remain the same, and for the local people here, the lakes are a symbol of something auspicious, and they gather here on ceremonial occasions. However, now it was time for a closer inspection, so I climbed back behind the wheels of the Aventura. The Fiat Aventura here is really a car which combines the best of both the worlds. In part, it's a luxury sedan, in part, it's an SUV. So it comes with a nice high ground clearance and a very high seating position. So it gives you a lot of confidence while you're driving on the highway. And once you look inside, you see that this car has pretty much got everything that you can expect from a luxury sedan. A nice sounding stereo system where you can play the USB as well as the CD, an instrumentation with chrome ring surrounds on it, the steering wheel with multifunctional buttons on it, and of course the seats I like because they are very firm and supportive, and on a long highway drive, they really hold you well. Overall, this car exudes a nice sense of comfort as well as practicality, and this is really a good car to take on a long highway drive. And as I make it to the edge of the Tikka lake here, I realize that this is actually a much bigger lake than what it appeared from the top of the mountain there. And the water here is really nice, clean, and it's glistening absolutely. And this is in fact the hub of the activity. When I say activity, don't get ideas, it doesn't really mean much. The only activity you can actually do here is go boating. But that is not to say that this is not a place you will not like, because this is a place where you come to unwind. You just sit by the lakeside, take in the clean air and the beautiful views, and it's quite relaxing. And in fact, if you do decide to spend the night here, there's a rest house right by the lake, and that looks like a very nice place to spend the evening in and stay the night. Morni Hills is also a place which offers you trekking options, and the river Ghaggar flows nearby. And in terms of flora and fauna, there is plenty, so a nature walk is what is a must if you are here. If you ever get tired of looking at the waters of the lake, then there is another thing you can do, which is to take a long walk in the company of nature. There are plenty of nature trails here, and you can just walk for long hours listening to the chirping of the birds and taking in the fresh air. It's a beautiful way to spend an evening. After a lovely walk, it was time for me to find a place for the night. And this is not really difficult, as there are plenty of options here ranging from the luxury to budget ones. I spent a lovely weekend in the lap of nature in Morni Hills, a place which is far removed from the hustle and bustle of city life. And if you have a quiet weekend on your mind, then I strongly recommend this place. And the best part is, Morni Hills is easily accessible from the cities of Delhi and Chandigarh. And once you reach here, accommodation is not a problem. There's plenty, and you can suit according to your budget. And I, of course, had a lovely time driving this Fiat Aventura, a car which is just suited for highway driving.